Alex McLeish, welcome to this one-to-one. 2 games in. Is it different second time around?
I think, having had all the experience I've had since then, I feel much calmer in the job in terms of common sense, and I think there'll be a lot of that used.
I heard one commentator say, the second game, this is a game Alex McLeish has to win, and I thought, we've now completely lost the plot.
Well, I felt that way as well. I must admit, with the kind of atmosphere after the first game. But I really did feel that, obviously, there was 45 minutes of a start that was, would you say it was maybe a false start? But it was due to the fact that a lot of the guys were playing together for the first time. And so you have to take that into account, factor that in. The second 45 was terrific, and the Celtic players come on and they added to the momentum. The momentum was already there, I must add. I think everybody thinks that once we made the substitutions, that's what changed it. But we started the second half the way I wanted the players to start the first half. But we never quite got that rhythm. And I think, you can't get too depressed about that. At the same time, we can't get too euphoric about winning away in Hungary.
I look at the team that Gordon had, and I've always thought he had the problem, find 2 centre-halves, find a regular goal scorer. Is it fair to say that you've come in and inherited a squad where you need to tweak it and still have the same problem that Gordon was trying to find?
Guys like Christophe Berra, what was in my thoughts, of course, but I said, we've seen Christophe, we know what he can do. I phoned him and I said, look, I'm going to try some other guys, Russell Martin as well. Russell would have played in one of the games for us, but I did want to try some of the younger players, and McKenna has impressed me this season, and over a couple of seasons really he's been quite consistent. And then there was the one that came right out of the blue was Jack Hendry, when I saw him coming on in the Old Firm game in the right back position. I knew that wasn't his true position, but what I was impressed by was his composure going into the hotbed of an Old Firm derby at Ibrox, and credit to the kid. And I thought, I'm going to take him as a wild card. Whether I thought he was going to play at that particular moment was still in debate, but when I saw the performance level of the 2 of those guys in Hungary, then I thought, we've got some real talent for the future.
Yeah. Nobody can talk more enthusiastically and with a greater insight than you about centre-halves for our country. So I looked at Scott McKenna and I thought, wow, here's one. You've mentioned Jack Hendry. Do you think those 2 could solve the problem in the future? Do you still have to keep searching?
No, listen, they have. I think they have showed what they can do in those. Well, certainly in that second game together, playing in a back 3. I think they're used to playing in 4-4-2 formation, or a back 4. Sorry. And it's quite a new system to them, although their managers have dabbled with it as well. But they're probably true to playing in 2 centre-halves. And I'm not saying that we solve a problem. At the ages these guys are, and just having come into international football, then they don't have all the answers, but they have shown the composure and a cauldron of football, let's face it, is really, you're judged in a very, very, very high level when you play in international football as opposed to club football, and that would take their mentality to another level. It would, technique-wise, then we can keep working with them, and the clubs will work with them. We don't get a lot of time to coach them, but I'm sure I can impart some of my experience onto Jack and to Scott McKenna, and every other centre half who would be available to play for us that's of a younger nature. We still have the Russell Martin out there. We still have Christophe Berra. There are other players who have been recommended, but I'm really optimistic about seeing these guys at close quarters.
One of the great things about your side, first time around at Scotland, they were difficult to beat. Are you hoping the likes of a McKenna and a Hendry can be the backbone for the future, for the years to come?
Yeah, I'm not going to kind of put that pressure on them right now, but they've got the potential, as others have in the centre back position. But they've definitely shown that the potential is there, and we've got to try and nurture that.
Strikers. They're a rare breed for us.
Yeah.
Lee Griffiths has said that if you want him to go and play in the South American games against Peru and Mexico, he'll be on that plane for you. Yeah. What's your feeling on it?
Yeah, I would love to see Lee Griffiths getting himself to the top level of fitness again. I'd obviously have to get some feedback from the clubs. Lee's not played as much as everybody else. Maybe it'll be good for Celtic for us to take him. And if he's fit, then it's very likely he'll be selected.
How difficult is it for you to try and keep the lid on the, I wouldn't say hysteria, but the real kind of a build-up on Scott McTominay?
Well, he's 21. He's just burst into the Man United team from nowhere, really. He took a big growth spurt, I think, between 16 and 18, and he's always been in the United system, so you would think he's been schooled in a good way. Again, there's other very, very experienced players in the Scottish setup. James MacArthur, for instance, I saw him at the weekend. I saw him against Scott McTominay, and the guy's experience was there for everybody to see. James Morrison is injured at the moment, so there are experienced players there who are absolutely not forgotten. But Scott McTominay is one for the future, and if he can keep improving with Man United, I think at the start of the second half, I saw more of Scott what they'd been seeing at Man United. The first half was difficult for him and Tom Kearney, Kevin McDonald, in that a lot of them hadn't played together and they were just getting thrown on, really, and it wasn't a case of being able to play every day in training with them together. And even if it was, it's one of those situations where you have a club team, say, and you've got the League Cup game during the week, so you completely change the team. Yeah. And you say, on paper, whoa, what a team that is. They should batter this team from the second division and who they should beat. And then you get a really strange performance, despite those guys training every day together. It's because you're putting a new team on the pitch for the first time without having any real rhythm. You can see the difficulty sometimes.
Is there any danger of Scott McTominay jumping to England?
Not from the conversation I had with him. He was adamant that he wanted to play for Scotland. We know that he has to play in a competition game for him to be a bona fide Scottish cap of the future, and I really had a good look in Scott McTominay's eyes, and it seemed to me that he was smitten by the Scottish tartan flag.
We've got a couple of friendlies in South America. We've got the potential of Portugal. How close are we to that? Because I watched the Champions League game in which Ronaldo scored a wonder goal. He's breaking all sorts of records. It would be great to see your boys up against him.
It would be fantastic, and we have we wanted to take on a couple of tough games, to see how far we can progress, or we believe we'll have the potential to progress. And it would be great to have somebody like Ronaldo gracing the turf at Hampden.
Special goal. It's up there. Is it better than Zidane?
He's amazing. He every time there's a survey about who's the best in the world between him and Messi gets ahead, he comes out with something like that. He raises the bar even further, and we look for our young players to get the inspiration from people like him, that you can never stop getting better.
We're edging ever closer to the SFA resolving the Hampden issue. Is that for you the right decision, staying at the National Stadium in Glasgow?
Well, I don't know the ins and outs of the statistics or logistics or what it means financially if we move or not. I love to play at Hampden. I'm always gutted if we don't win at Hampden, as I was after the Costa Rica game. So it's hard for me to envisage a future without Hampden.
Let me ask you about a couple of things before we finish. Of the other players that maybe didn't get the run out, and some that had to pull out, I mean, one of them is Dylan McGeoch, who's been playing well for Hibernian. The likes of the other players that maybe didn't get a run out, is that how you're going to use the next friendlies, or do you feel as if the next friendlies coming up are all about getting that settled 11 towards the Nations Games?
Well, again, that is a time when a lot of the Scottish clubs are gearing up for, or will be about to gear up for European football, the teams who are going to be in there. So, I have to find out, what kind of training schedules that they're approaching just before we play our games. But I'd certainly like to get the nucleus of a side that we can see playing in the qualifiers by the time we get to South America. But I will obviously take on board what the clubs think about it. We've got to sit down together and speak about. What I don't want to do is take guys who have played 60 odd games a season, and if it's at the risk of injury or the risk of burnout, and you don't get the best of them, I've got to take everything into consideration. It's not a case of saying if Derek McInnes didn't want a couple of guys to go, and I just bow and say to him, no problem, you can take your guys out. We have to have discussions.
Yeah. Have you got a 7 or 8 in your mind, and then it's up to others to force themselves in to your thoughts?
Yeah, well, again, there's players who have, as you saw in the second game, had a lot more experience than some of the guys who played in the first game. So, they'll be very much, would be very much looking to start the games, the qualifiers, with experienced players of know-how. But if we get a surprise like we did in Hungary with some of the performances in the second half against Costa Rica, some of the performances, and then they can add to that in their next games with their clubs if it's inspired them. And I know that when I first played for Scotland, it was just, I thought I wanted to scale the heights, and I'm sure that's what every player wants to do. So there will be guys like James MacArthur, who I've mentioned already, and Morrison. These fellas have got to come into the reckoning because they've got so much nous, tactical nous, and knowledge of the game that you can't just discard and say, yeah, we've found a bunch of youngsters who are going to take us all the way. Yeah. But it'll be a bit of a mix.
Are you looking for a direct replacement for Scott Brown? People are trying to throw John McGinn to the forefront of that.
Yeah, well, John McGinn has not really played in that role per se, you know, as he's not an experienced campaigner in that role. So just say to John, play like Scott Brown. Scott Brown has not got that skill, that knowledge overnight, Peter. That's been over a number of years where his understanding of the game has become better and better. The knowledge he would get from some of his coaches, and I know he thinks highly of Brendan, and he thought very, very highly of Gordon Strachan. And you know, I even gave him his first international, and then he quit on me, you know. So getting somebody to go directly in as Scott's replacement, then, and I'm not so sure that's going to be an overnight thing. We maybe need to find our own identity, whether it's a players in another position, if it's two positions as opposed to Scott's kind of holding role position that is so effective. Maybe you've got to play with a two, and for more effect for us and the players that we'll have at our disposal.
It's a tough call. You're in it now, 2 games. You were an optimistic person when you sat down and said, here I am, I'm Scotland manager again. Early days, but are you more optimistic because you've started to see a couple of players that have given you food for thought?
Yeah, I've never changed my thoughts, and as I said, I didn't get too down about the Friday game, and equally I didn't go overboard, you know, with celebrations for the Tuesday game. I tried to keep a bit of equilibrium and you know, make sure that we don't get carried away, but also that we don't get too depressed if there's something that was a wee setback. Where the important task ahead is the qualifiers, and we will be using the games in the summer to make it very difficult for our World Cup opponents.
Alex McLeish, let's hope we're going to the European Championships. Thanks for your time.
Let's believe.